everyone. I hope everyone has had a great start to their Q4. In this e-commerce exchange episode, we're going to be focusing on organic social and influencer efforts. It's a bit of a follow-up from our conversation previously with Reagan related to paid efforts. TikTok, social accounts, there's a broad array of different tactics that we can do. So we wanted to split one up with paid. And then for today, I am here with our social media director, Dana Henninger, to focus on, again, just social and influencer. Hi, Dana. Welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to our conversation. To kick off today's episode, can you give us a quick overview of the importance of developing an organic social strategy tied with influencer, kind of what that means for brands on the digital space?
Yeah, so organic social is all about building a community and really fostering brand loyalists. It's not necessarily a place where you're going to see direct conversions all of the time. It's definitely heading in that direction, but it's more so, again, about that community. Influencers tie into that as well through their posting and having a kind of social proof layered into your organic social strategy. So you want to have your own perspective from the brand and then also have, people talking about you and, again, fostering that community. It all is supported through influencers and then just those brand loyalists as well.
Got it. So it's not necessarily the messaging of 20% off sale or Black Friday sale, all that. It's more so brand awareness, brand community building, the value prop, the brand story, things that allow the consumers to understand and explore the brand before actually purchasing.
Yeah, and you can definitely add in some sales messaging. So in those bigger brand moments like Black Friday, like that's like a social holiday almost as well. So it's not just something where it's driven just through ad channels, but for the most part, typically you're not wanting to push a ton of that kind of sale messaging, just because again, it's more of an organic community where you want to have people learning about your products, engaging with them, instead of just kind of ramming those sales down their throat. That's not really what they're looking for there. They want to kind of escape from things like that and see their friends post mixed in with their favorite brands and new launches and all of that fun stuff.
So speaking of creative a little bit, we always talk about the difference again between paid and organic, and that even comes down to the creative. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you work with brands to plan for the different types of creative? What type of creative needs to be made for paid and what kind of creative needs to be made for organic?
For both, I feel like a lot of static imagery can kind of go both ways. If you have great brand photography, it mostly can be used in different places. When it comes to like TikToks and videos like that, there's definitely a difference between videos that are made for ads versus videos that are made to be super organic. With TikTok, if you're familiar, if you're on the platform, it's a lot of like trend-based things, and they might not convert to everybody who's seeing them that they would be seeing them in ads. So it might be more of an opportunity to just get like a lot of comments and likes and things like that, but maybe not necessarily be as informative or sales-based as something would need to be for paid.
You mentioned TikTok in there a little bit. I know that we've talked about that a ton. So knowing that is such a major talking point right now, can you talk to the importance of brands having an organic TikTok strategy today and what that also has looked like for you going to the holiday season?
Yeah, so with Facebook and Instagram, they were obviously huge. Facebook especially was a huge platform organically back in the day. Instagram still is really important, but organically, brands are seeing less and less impressions and reach just organically through their content. So TikTok is really where everything is headed in terms of getting your messaging out there and having an active audience ready to watch it. I would say that the average engagement rate on TikTok is about 10 times higher than that on Instagram. So we're really seeing a lot more engagement and opportunity for your content to go viral on TikTok versus on Instagram. So having a presence there and building that up is very important, especially in these earlier days. We've talked before about boosting posts and things like that and trying to grow your audience with the right relevant followers. And it really makes more sense to kind of put that effort into growing your TikTok right now than it does to growing your Instagram if you're an established brand. Newer brands definitely still need to put a lot of effort into growing Instagram because people are looking at that still. To look at your website, they'll check out your Instagram to see if you are something they want to be purchasing from and things like that. So it's definitely important to build that up. But if you already have a decently established Instagram, TikTok is something you definitely want to look into because, again, you're so much more able to get good reach there without having to spend a ton of money like you do on Instagram.
Okay. What do you mean by a ton of money? Are you saying cost per follower on TikTok versus Instagram?
Yes.
Is that kind of the metric that you're using?
Yeah, so in terms of growing your following on Instagram, it's usually between like $2 to $4 a follower versus on TikTok, it's like a matter of cents. It's like 40 to 90 cents depending on the brand. So obviously if and you're getting more engagement and more reach there, just even posting your videos organically without even boosting them. So it makes more sense to have a lower acquisition cost of getting followers on TikTok and then also have a better chance at reaching them even just organically than it does to spend more on Instagram and then also not really be able to reach people there.
Why do you think the cost per followers on TikTok are so much cheaper than on Instagram right now? Is it first to the platform, so those early adopters are seeing a less competitive platform, and they'll continue to see that, or is it that there's just so many more impressions on TikTok versus Instagram that the cost per follower can go down?
There's really a couple different layers to it. First off, I would just say that it is a newer platform, and it's like the earlier adopters are winning there. About 2 years ago, when the ability to target for followers came out, we were seeing cost per follows around 9 cents. So it's gone up to what I said about 40 to 90 cents now. So just over time, it has gone up. I anticipate the cost per follow on TikTok to go up even further as time does go on, but um, outside of just like competing and more people advertising on the channel in general, you're working in the same ad space as people who are working with paid advertising and things like that versus just boosting like we are. So you're competing with those videos for that space. But also, I think the reason why it's less expensive on TikTok is because TikTok's algorithm is so advanced and so unique, where it just really gets to know all of its users better than I think Instagram's algorithm does. Like you could be, if you're thinking of something and oh, here's a video. I was just talking about this, and here's a video. It just knows you better than you know yourself. At times you're like, oh my gosh, this like video I watched or like this movie I watched when I was a kid that I forgot even existed, like now it's showing me this. um, so I think that TikTok's ability to get to know its users makes it more efficient in advertising so that you can kind of get in front of the right people and those people are following once they're seeing that content.
Okay, got it. My last question for you is pretty standard for all of our guests from the Blue Whale organization. It's around our performance commerce effect. So, for you, Dana, can you explain where organic, social, and influencer falls within our PCE, and then give some benchmarks to brands of if they wanted to recreate their own PCE, what are the types of metrics or KPIs that you're looking at?
Yeah, so definitely, as we've talked about, falls in the awareness and interest kind of phases, the earlier phases of the PCE. It's not necessarily that instant converting channel like paid advertising and things like that are. And then some benchmarks that we have are definitely at first based on how we've been talking about TikTok. How many followers you have on TikTok compared to how many you have on Instagram. We're finding that our brands that typically are in a good spot have around 40% of the following on TikTok that they do on Instagram. um, just to kind of get that started. Brands have been working on Instagram for years and years and years, so they're likely to have built up a pretty decent following there. Whereas TikTok is a newer platform, not all brands are boosting posts and kind of going after followers that way. They're doing it more organically. So 40% is kind of the average benchmark we're looking at in terms of determining if you have what you should of TikTok followers compared to your Instagram followers. Another thing to look at also is the demographics of your audience. So when I am auditing different brands and I see low engagement, one of the first things I do is let me look at their audience. Um, Oftentimes, brands will have followers in like demographics that are not related to their actual target audience. So if they're mostly selling in the U.S. to women and they have an audience of people from all over the country, all over the world, who are speaking different languages and things like that, and it's mostly men, it's just not likely that they're going to have an audience that's actually a good community for them. Maybe they bought followers, maybe they had like a bot farm go nuts on their account or something like that, but obviously they didn't grow with the right people. So making sure that you have at least around 80% of your following based in the US, if you are mostly targeting the US, is really important. And that's the benchmark we like to look for and aim for. And if you do have an audience that's really skewed and in the wrong direction, through our boosted post strategy, we can correct that. We have had brands that get to that 80% based on working with us over time and kind of shifting and growing in the right target. And then, as I mentioned before, we're seeing with engagement rates, the average engagement rate for beauty brands is about 0.24%, which sounds pretty low, which kind of is. Over time, Instagram engagement rates have been going down, but 0.24% is the average with beauty. And then on TikTok, it's like I mentioned, about 10 times that, so 2.63%. on TikTok. So when we're vetting brands as well, we're looking at that to see if they have good engagement on TikTok, and we expect it to be at least 10 times higher than they're having their engagement on Instagram.
Got it. So summarizing these, first one, make sure that from a TikTok to Instagram ratio, you have at least 40% of the followers on Instagram. The second one, making sure that if your focus is to go after US consumers, that 80% of your followers are in the US. And then lastly, from an engagement rate for beauty brands specifically, and maybe we have some other rates in other industries, right? But for sake of this example, engagement rate of 2.6% for TikTok should be at least 10 times higher than Instagram. And if those aren't happening, then we know that there's potentially an opportunity to further develop that strategy.
Yep, exactly.
Great. All right. Well, Dana, this was fantastic. Thank you for joining today. And I hope that we continue to do this, because this one was really fun and really easy, because you make it really easy. So thanks.
Good. I'm so glad. Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Well, thanks again for tuning in, everyone. We're looking forward to our next session coming up around the performance commerce effect. So we tease our performance commerce effect through these ones, but we thought it'd be necessary to have our VP of sales, Zach, from our team on, just to really start to bring these all together. So keep your eye out for that. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please let us know. Happy holidays.